So when it comes to pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, we go to 2017 to find our first optimal versus realistic lineup. I don't have a GPP here, but your optimal in 2017 left $1,900 on the table, whereas the realistic optimal only left $300 on the table. And your optimal for 2017 used a $9,300 Daniel Berger, $6,400 Wee Kim, $7,900 Charles Schwartzel, $8,600 Rafael Cabrera Bello, $9,500 Billy Horschel, and $6,400 Chez Reavie. Now, leaving $1,900 on the table is pretty unrealistic. I would never advocate for leaving a lot of money on the table. So when we go throughout the optimal lineups here, if there's a lot of money left on the table, just ignore it. That's why I kind of create this realistic lineup. And if you follow this channel long enough, you know I like to advocate for this kind of start. A 10K golfer, a 9K golfer, an 8K, two 7Ks, and a 6K, or more commonly referred to from me as the 10-9-8-7-7-6 approach. The reason being, 25% of GPP winning lineups have that makeup. 11% of optimal lineups also start that way, and they are the leading, or that start is the leading, what would you want to call it, salary structure lineups for each of those categories. So your top GPP winning lineup is the 10-9-8-7-7-6, same two as the optimal lineup. And then for the next two, they're very similar. 10-9-8-7-6-6 would be the next one, and then 10-9-8-7-7-7 would be the next one. And I think when it comes to GPP winners, that's about 40% of your winning lineups. And for optimal lineups, it's like 25, 30%, something like that. Now, in the future, when I get a website up and running, I will show you this information. So it's not just hearsay. You know, you're not just listening to me say it. You can see it for your own good, and you can also research it too. But I do have a video out there. You can check the link down below. It is does projected ownership matter? If you check that video out, at the end of it, I do go over more common salary, the most common salary builds. And I also provide this in the Fantasy Golf Pod video that I did with Chad Eckert when it came to strategy. And I think we did that last fall, if I remember correctly. I think if you just go to the Fantasy Golf, actually, never mind. I'd have to find it for you guys. But if you know how to research it, perfect. If not, I will try to link it down in the description. Anyways, so 2017, 48,100 was your optimal. Your realistic was 49.7, and that started with a 9K, a 9K, 8K, 8K, 7, 6. So to go along with kind of that 10-9-8-7-7-6 method, I like to say you can make two substitutions. So obviously we don't see a 10K, but we do have two 9Ks. So sub 110 down to a 9, that's one substitution. And then you only see one 7K there, but you see two 8Ks. So we obviously sub 1.7 up to an 8, and we still have the 6K, we still have the 7K, and that's how we kind of get around to that. That won't work all the time, but it's pretty darn close. I mean, it's like 90% or more. In 2018, we have an optimal lineup that used up 49,200. That's really difficult to get to as well, leaving $800 on the table, but it's way more realistic than leaving $1,900 on the table. So I kind of like 49.2 is my bare minimum. I don't think you want to leave more than $800 on the table. And even in the FedEx Cup playoffs that are coming up, when the fields get smaller, I still stick to that. Because believe it or not, when I go through those past optimal GPP win lineups for those tournaments, you're going to see the same thing. You're not going to see a lot of money. Like when people say, oh, this is a good time to get creative with your lineups because the likelihood of duplicate lineups is going to be really high. Yeah, but if you have the optimal lineup, you have the best lineup. You know, like if you're going to dupe an optimal, that's the only way you win the most amount of money you can possibly make. So keep that in mind. Your optimal in 2018 had Dustin Johnson, JB Holmes. All right, let's say a different way. $11,700 Dustin Johnson, $8,000 JB Holmes, $7,700 Andrew Putnam, $7,000 Richie Wierenski, $6,800 Stuart Sink, and $8,000 Chris Kirk. So we don't have a 9K golfer there, but what we do have 2 8s. So we make one substitution, 1-9 down to an 8, and that's largely due to Dustin Johnson winning at $11,700. It's a very big price tag for one golfer, and that's why we don't have a 9K golfer up there. But also, I don't see a 9K golfer even inside the top 10 or the top 20. So it was probably going to be Dustin no matter what. But yeah, you still have a 10, 2 8s, 2 7s, and a 6. In 2019, your optimal lineup left $400 on the table, and this is our first glimpse of a GPP winning lineup as well. Your optimal started with an $11,600 golfer. So keep that all in mind, because we're kind of venturing. You can kind of see we're getting bigger price tags here at the top of the leaderboard. $11,000, 600. Brooks Koepka, $8,200 Webb Simpson, $7,600 Mark Leishman, $7,700 Matthew Fitzpatrick, $7,400 Ian Poulter, and a $7,100 Bubba Watson. So that's a 10, an 8, and 4 7s. So that's not, well, first of all, it's not common. It does not follow the make 2 substitutions. Because I usually count substitutions just jumping from one salary tier to the next one and then to the next one. So going from a 9 down to 2, you'd have to drop down to an 8 and then down to a 7. That'd be 2 substitutions, and then 1 6 up to a 7. So that would be 3. So it doesn't really quite follow it, but still, it's very close. So an $11,600. Most of the reason why you have to do 4 7s is because you had to use a large salary like that. And this is actually a lot similar to what we have this year, because in 2019, we had 63 golfers. We were supposed to have 64, but Shane Lowry did not show, or he withdrew before the start of the event. So this is going to be very similar. So if you're wondering if you should play an $11,000 or a $12,000 Scotty Scheffler, or I should say $11,000 Jon Rahm, so far, we've looked at 3 years, and 2 of them had an $11,000 golfer as the winner, not just only in the optimal lineup, but as the winner as well. So we could say cream rises to the top. And this is a very close, you could correlate this tournament to this year's, I should say, I'm sorry, let me reword that. In 2019, that tournament, you can compare it to this year's tournament because it's about the same field. It's in the playoffs, just like it was in 2019. So, actually, I think that was a WGC event. Never mind. It's a little bit different, but close to. In 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even say the GPP winning lineup. So the GPP winning lineup had those 5 golfers that I already stated with the optimal. 11,600 Brooks, 82 Webb, 76 Mark Leishman, 77 Matt Fitzpatrick, 74 Ian Poulter, and then $7,500 Matt Wolff. Again, 10, 8, and then 4 7s. So now we can move on to 2020. Here, our optimal lineup only left $100 on the table, but it started with a $10,700 golfer. Had a 10-7, 9-2, 8, and another 9 to go along with 2 6s. So just to repeat that, that's a 10, 2 9s, an 8, and 2 6s. That's pretty uncommon, if I'm going to be honest with you. Very, very uncommon. Very stars and scrubs. And I believe that too was a WGC event, if I remember correctly. I don't think this was part of the playoffs just yet. I'm pretty sure it wasn't because this was coming back from COVID. But we did have around the same amount of golfers that we have this year. This one had 79 golfers in it. So another limited field event with a high price guy at the top. Not the highest price guy, but a high price guy. And then your $3 birdie winning lineup had a 10, a 9, a 9, $6,600, $6,200, and then we scroll down a little bit to find our $7,500 golfer there. So just to repeat, that's a 10, 9, 9, 7, 6, 6. Which is very unique as well. In 2021, our optimal lineup left $600 on the table. And I believe this was the first week or the first year we did the FedEx Cup playoffs. It seems that way because the Olympics were the week before. Let's just double check. I don't know. I think this might be another WGC event. It must have been. And I'm sorry I don't have that information in front of me. I totally forgot to pull it up. But you guys can obviously search for it pretty fast. Either way, very similar field, 6,500, or not 65, 65 golfers, not 6,500, but 65 golfers were in this field. And it did not start with a 10K golfer, believe it or not. Your optimal had $8,300, $9,400, $6,900, $7,600, $9,000, and $8,200. Just to repeat that a different way, $9,400, $9,000, $8,300, $8,200, $76, and a $69. So believe it or not, you can make your two substitutions that way. You can go from a 10 down to another 9, so that's how you get your two 9s, and then you can bump one of your 7s up to another 8, and that's how you get your two 8s. So 9-9, 8-8, 7-6. Your GPP winning lineup left $100 on the table, and it used those top three guys: Answer, Matsuyama, Burns, $9,000 Paul Casey, $9,200 Daniel Berger, and then a $7,100 Billy Horschel. So that's actually 3 9s, an 8, a 7, and a 6. So far when we've looked at this, we've already went through 5 years. 2 of those years we had one of the highest priced guys win the tournament. 2 other years we had very balanced builds that took down the optimal lineup, as well as the GPP winning lineup. And then 1 year, I guess it was more just, it was stars and scrubs as well. So 2020 was stars and scrubs. 2019 and 2018 were like kind of traditional builds with your high price guy. 2017 was more balanced for your optimal, but that left a lot of money on the table, so hard to get to. So very, very, very unique ways of building lineups. And then if we look at last year, 2022, we left a ton of money on the table for the optimal lineup. Too much, in my opinion, way too much. So the optimal had $9,500 Will Zalatoris, $6,100 Sepp Straka, $6,300 Lucas Glover, $7,200 Brian Harmon, $8,700 Colin Morikawa, and $6,500 Trey Mullinax. That's 3 6K golfers, 1 9K, 1 8K, and 1 7. That's impossible. Don't do it. Not a good lineup build. Of course, it was your optimal. Now, your GPP winning lineup used up $50,000 of the salary, and it was a 9K, an 8K, make that 2 9Ks, and then 2 8Ks, a 6K, and a 7K. So I guess just to repeat that, that's 2 9s, 2 8s, a 7, and a 6. So that used up all $50,000 of the salary. That's a very balanced build. So again, balanced builds so far kind of have the lean here when it comes to pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. A more realistic lineup left $400 on the table. Start with a 10K golfer, a 9K, 2 8s, a 7, and a 6. That way it's still kind of following the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 approach, but we are subbing 1 7 up to an 8. But we are starting with the 10K golfer. And I believe that realistic, that scored what, 622? Yeah, that beats the $5 GPP. So if you're wondering if that one was better than the GPP winning lineup, it was. So very, very, very interesting lineup builds, lineup situations. I think we had, there was 120 golfers last year in this field, whereas in 2021, there were 66. So 2021, 2020, 2019, and let me double check. Was it 2018 as well? No. So 2019, 2020, and 2021, I think are probably going to be your closer related events to this year's event, because in those other ones, it was like 120 golfers or more. Whereas the ones that I pointed out were like 70 or less. So when I look at the salaries for this year, you know, you have 12-1 Scotty Scheffler, 11-5 Rory, and 11-1 Jon Rahm. Just by salaries alone, I got no issue playing any one of those golfers. In fact, I kind of like each one of them. I wouldn't so much say equally, but I like them for one of them to finish in first place, second place, or third place. So they're going to be top 3. You know, some of these other events where we had some of the top price guys, let me go ahead and throw some filters on here. So yeah, like Colin Morikawa in 2021 and Xander. I mean, we could always make questionable, you know, remarks. Are these 3 golfers in 2021 the same as Scotty, Rory, and Jon Rahm? I would heavily disagree. I'd say no way in hell. Of course, I don't really remember what 2021 was like, but I wouldn't have put Colin Morikawa at the top. Despite obviously winning an Open Championship, finishing 4th at the US Open, as well as 4th at the Olympics, I still wouldn't have. And same with Xander. You know, I would have probably put Rory up top, you know, just because it's Rory, and probably DJ, if I'm being honest, because of course history with Dustin Johnson. So yeah. Let's see, what was in 2022? Who was our top price guy last year? Oof, it was Rory. And then it was Scheffler. They both missed the cut. Xander, Cam Smith. That's a lot of 10K golfers. Jon Rahm finished 5th. He was in the realistic lineup, but not the optimal or the GPP lineup. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Let's see here. Let's check 2020. Obviously a 10.7 or $10,700 golfer won, but you had Rahm. Okay, so actually the more that we kind of go into this, I know it's very short sample size. I'm sure Brooks in this year was probably the top price guy. That he was. I mean, everyone here that was top price finished pretty good. There are some decisions to make. I guess I'll let the bucket system kind of work its magic and try to figure out, you know, how many 10K golfers we want, and of the 10K golfers, who do we want? But I guess just by eyeballing it, I'm not quite sure. Monday qualifiers. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Adam Scott, $11,000, finished 10th in 2017. So it's all over the place. I guess that's the best way to kind of talk about this. It's all over the place. I have no idea, just by eyeballing it here, where we should start. I guess, I mean, just pointing it out, I'm not afraid to start with the top 3 guys. No way. Like, I will, with the most confidence, start with one of those guys and have no issues with it. So yeah, that will conclude the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups.